Yes, we can start now.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our second KCF book session, book club session. We had a very good first session with CA Rajesh Chheda, and now it's our pleasure to see so many of you joining us today. What promises us to be an enriching journey through the world of books. As we embark on this new initiative by KCF together, I want to extend a warm welcome to both our returning members and those who are joining us for the first time. Today's book review is of Shoe Dog, a story of Nike, written by its co founder and chairman, Phil Knight. I have the pleasure of introducing, or rather reintroducing, our KCF team member, CA Rajesh Chheda. Rajesh Chheda is a chartered accountant and a certified financial planner by qualification and evolved into a health risk assessor and guide by profession. From the Sensex touching 1,000 mark till its current 75,000 levels, he has been in the field of financial services. He has been a life member of prestigious $1 million roundtable in USA. He loves academia, having been a visiting professor at the Goa University and the Goa Institute of Management. Many families have had an intergenerational relationship over the 2 or 3 decades working with him and his team. Academical achievement was him standing first in the merit list in the higher secondary schools exams in the commerce stream in March 1984. Wow. Without further ado, I will now request C. Rajesh Chheda to present his summary and the thoughts on the book.
Thank you, Chirag bhai, and good morning to all of you. It's my pleasure to share my delight at the reading. I would just like to confirm, can you all see the screen share?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So let's begin in the right earnest. But I've read this book once. It was a unputdownable book, I would say. I read it the second time with the highlights to share my experiences, and I think I learned a lot more. I did dig a bit deeper because the life story of Phil Knight is from 1962, when he's 24 years of age, till 1980, when he's 42. So this is the book in that period of time. After that, a lot more has happened. So I've tried to piece together and add value to this. As the cover says, Shoe Dog, the meaning of Shoe Dog is somebody who is a fan, a mad fan, like a dog and the bone. A dog doesn't leave something. So a shoe dog is a person who's absolutely intensely, what you call, totally interested in the development of the shoe, the updates on the shoe, or, the manufacture, what are the improvements that can be done. So that's how probably he calls himself as a shoe dog. And the book is divided into chapters, and it is quite intriguing that the name of the chapters, say the prologue is called Dawn, after which every year is a chapter from 1962, 63 onwards till 1980, and after that it is night. So in the first part of it, when he talks about Dawn, that was the time when so that was the time when he was about going to be 24. And imagine in 1962, what is the mindset of a person in America? No internet, no mobiles. And what he, as a school student, he used to love to run. Unfortunately, he was not in the top leagues. He was in the higher leagues, but not, the dream to qualify to represent his country or something. That did not happen. But he was passionate. So early in the morning, before the sun rises, before the birds come out and all, he would go for his morning jog, maybe a 6-mile jog. Okay. And basically, he was very simple, more as a loner. He was an accountant, and he was proud of his place where he came from, Portland. Now, Portland is, the Oregon Trail, as they say, once upon a time, there was a very rough trail where a lot of people died, when they used to go on the trail, on the wagons. So there was a cliche that was created, which said, the cowards never started and the weak died along the way. Along the way, that leaves us. So that means they are the strugglers, they are the survivors. And in the morning, he uses one word, one sentence in the book, from solid to liquid. It's like when you get up in the morning, your limbs and all are a little bit aching, or, they are solid. And then once your limbs begin to loosen out in the run, and that's the time, you are there with nature and ideas come along the way. So at this age, he had a constant feeling of see, he felt he was a very normal, he was a very a simple normal boy, somebody who probably in those years in the US, there was the rebellion types, but he wasn't somewhat like that. He was a simple boy. Probably he mentions that he never smoked, he never tried drugs, he didn't have a girlfriend. He probably, in the dream would be, I want to have a house, get married, have children, like the aspirations of everyone. But he was in search of understanding who am I. Probably I think Mr. Victor Manikam had done a course, and and that that who am I. So he said that the time is short, so therefore he wants to make it meaningful, purposeful, creative, important, and that is why he wants to leave a mark on the world. Now this was the aspirations of uh, a, a person just out of his school. He finished his school, and then as he's running, he suddenly comes across the aha moment. He says, like, can I do something which distinguishes me and I don't miss out on the running part? So can I be still a part of the track? And that's where he gets the aha moment. He says he coins the word play. He says you enjoy your work so much that it becomes a play. Now, at that time, the world was full of war, pain, misery. And that's the time he has something like a crazy idea. He calls it as a crazy idea because he likes the shoes so much that he says, can I do something and can I get into this business of selling shoes, inventing and doing something which is unique? Okay, so this is where he starts from. Now, before that, the other enlightenment happens is that I'm just showing you this about his in 2016 he says, but it goes back to that crazy idea. That's why I gave you the prologue part of it. Let everyone else call your idea crazy, just keep going, don't stop, don't even think about stopping until you get there, and don't give much thought to where there is. Whatever comes, just don't stop. So I think we know this brand, just do it. Now, to the members of the Kutch Forum, Kutch Corporate Forum, or whatever, I'm assuming that many of us are entrepreneurs, and it is nice to learn the life lessons of such people uh, who have created history of sorts. Now, these are the two photographs which will come along the way. There is this Bill Bowerman and Phil Knight. Now, Bill Bowerman was his track coach. He was his mentor. So probably he was 24 and Bill was maybe 20, 30 years elder than him. And the next phase in the life of Nike, which gave a big, huge turnaround, was Michael Jordan. So that was another where they did something different. Now, what he did is in 1962, okay, with this crazy idea of sorts, this was the person who finished his school education at his um, Portland, at the city in Portland. And then he went to do his MBA at Stanford. So at 23, 24, this young MBA from Stanford has come out. And there is one deep desire before he starts off on anything. He wants to discover, as I said, discover himself. And this I would like to lay stress on is he embarks on a journey visiting about 13, 14, 15 countries, 15, 20 cities in a year's time, experiencing the life over there or experiencing or discovering himself. So he starts off by going to Honolulu, which is at Hawaii, and probably the connect with Honolulu and his passion was Japan at that time. He wanted to visit Japan because Japan used to produce, after the war, and the costs were very cheap, and they used to produce the shoes. So one of the shoes was branded Tiger by the Onitsuka company, and he wished to probably go over there and try to have some sort of a tie-up or a distribution for the shoes in the USA. So he goes to Honolulu, and there probably for some time he is trying to sell encyclopedias, earn some part time. So they earn and they travel. And after that, he goes to Japan at Kobe. Now, that was an experience of his lifetime where he talks. He climbed the Mount Fujiyama under this. Probably at that experience, even he fell in love. He met somebody over there and from the US who had also come. And mm, after that, he gets an appointment with the company. He goes and meets the company people, and when he's giving a presentation, he says, and they show him the pair of shoes they have, and he says that I would like a few samples, and I would like to market them in America. So they ask him, what is the name of your company? Now, at that point of time, he doesn't even have a company. He doesn't even think of a name, but probably he just says, yes, I have a company called Blue Ribbon. And, it's like when he has that in mind that when he goes back, let him start that company and sort of, get going with the things. After Japan, he goes to Hong Kong. Then from there, he goes to Philippines. He goes to Thailand. He goes to Vietnam. He goes to India. Now in India, he visits Varanasi. Probably, he comes across some sayings of the Upanishads. He quotes them. He goes to Bombay. He goes to Delhi. And after that, he goes to Nepal, where Kathmandu, where he wants to look at the Himalayas. Then he goes to Cairo. He goes to see the Great Pyramids. Now, remember one thing, this 23, 24-year-old boy backpacking, he's absorbing all these things. If you can relate it to Steve Jobs, where he had come to India and he had, before the greatness of Apple, I see some sort of a connectivity here. After that, he goes to Jerusalem, the River Jordan. He goes to Turkey, where again he quotes the philosopher Rumi. And I've got those quotes a little later. And then he goes to Italy, where he goes to Rome, he goes to Milan, he goes to Venice. He sinks in all that. He goes to Paris, then he goes to Munich, then he goes to Vienna, he goes to London, and finally he goes via Greece, where he goes to see the ancient Greece temples of Parthenon, the temple of Athena. Rather, he goes to Athena, the goddess, the temple of Nike, and the goddess of victory. And this is where he comes back home later on his 24th birthday. And this is his probably that experience where he has traveled. Now he's all set at age 24 after backpacking to start off something on his own. But remember one thing, he needs money. So he, being an accountant, takes up a job at that time at Coopers and Lybrand in Portland. They had an office, $500 job with a CA firm. And he also starts, the moment he comes back, he tells his father that, did you send that $50 to Japan for the pair of shoes? And the samples arrive. And then he starts off a business venture of importing these shoes and starting off. Now, coming back to his track coach, who was a master motivator, a natural leader, a mentor. Now, this Bill Bauman, the uniqueness of him, he went on eventually coaching the US track team for the Olympics. He was a very tough master, and probably at that time he was so crazy about shoes. And the tracks also were slowly going to develop into the polyurethane ones. So you probably needed to adapt to the shoes. He would visit all the lockers of the track boys and probably rip open their shoes, check out how they were made, make some little tinkering, and so on and so forth. And he was his mentor of sorts. Okay. And what he does is that he needs to set up a company. He needs to set up something which he can do on his own, but he needs to have a mentor. He needs to have a partner. Now, what he does is in 64. Now, what I'm doing is that the chapters are 62, 63, 64, and I've tried to give you all a summary of these. Now, say in 62, apart from the crazy ideas, there were some thought processes that when he goes to uh, uh, Turkey, he gets the feeling, it says, don't go to sleep one night. What you most want will come to you then. Somewhere else, he comes across a quote which says, love truth, but pardon error. And that is his program. Now, in 63, in 62, that's his travel. 63, he gets himself a car. So that's his passion. And the Valiant, he calls it, and he reminisces the best moments of his life in 62. 64, now with the coach, who was the most famous track coach in the USA. He never considered himself a track coach. He says he was a professor of competitive responses. Now, these are some tidbits where I've gathered, which I would like to share with you all. It might not be in a sync as such, but still. Here, he has the courage and he wants to ask him to to partner with him. So what happens now? In the meanwhile, in 65, 66, now please remember, he is still working. For 6 years, he's working at a 9 to 6 job. He attends to his company, Blue Ribbon, before 9 o'clock, a couple of hours, and after 6 o'clock, a couple of hours, and the weekends. But in those 3 years, constantly his sales are doubling. He starts with $8,000 sales, then $16,000, then in 66, the sales are $44,000. Okay. And now here, one lesson in probably where he mentions in 66, he says, business is war without bullets. Because there's a constant demand for money. He keeps on doubling his sales. But the bankers in those years, remember, the bankers were not investment bankers. So the bank, and in those days, the banks had limited coverage. So particularly in the state of Oregon, only those banks which were there was no other bank from another state that could do business in the state of Oregon. So he says that business is war without bullets. Fail quickly, get up and learn the lesson and move on. Fail fast. And then again, he gets that inspired with the quotation, don't tell people how to do things. Tell them what to do and let them surprise you with their results. Now, in 66, he approaches his mentor, Bauman. They have a sort of a lunch or a meeting at a cafeteria. They order some hamburgers, and I've given a quote here. Okay, I put out my hand, but then I pulled it back. What kind of partnership did you have in mind? I asked. I was daring to negotiate with God. I couldn't believe my nerve. Nor could Bowman. He looked bemused. 50-50, he said. Well, you'll have to put up half the money. Of course, he said. I figure the first order will be for $1,000. Your half will be 500. I'm good for that. When the waitress dropped off the check for the 2 hamburgers, we split that to 50-50. And there's a copy of the agreement. Now, this is a very interesting story. Remember again here, this is a 24-year-old boy. He is going to meet his mentor to talk about the partnership. They talk in the restaurant and he says, okay, now, to set up the agreement, you come over to my place. And he was staying on a mountain. He has built this whole house by himself, a towering personality. He goes there and then he says, okay, let me take you to my friend who's a lawyer, and he was a top-notch lawyer. Little bit, he also owned a big property next to his. So they go down. Now, when they go down to sign up the agreement and they're sitting, so probably the wife of the lawyer comes in with some coffee or, with something, and she gives a meaningful, a look to, as if this young boy is like a sacrificial lamb. These are the 2 big stalwarts, Bauman and the lawyer, who will probably skin him alive for the good deal. But remember one thing, the very interesting part is that They said 50-50. And the lawyer asks him that, although he said 50-50, Bauman told the lawyer, make it 49-51. That is, let him have the controlling stake, 51, because that's his idea. I don't want much of operational control. And immediately the deal, a simple deal like this was signed. It's just from this book again, it's an essence for us to understand how exactly the understanding is. So where there's a little bit of a let go, and then how the relationship blossoms. So this was the partnership agreement. Now, over here, meanwhile, the Japanese company was also not a very easy company. They would constantly not send him the shoes on time. There would be a constant demand supply issues. Again, if you see in the screen 67, 68, 69, look at the sales figures. I started with 8,000. There is 84,000 sales in 67. 150,000 sales. That means from 1,000 it has become now 100,000. And in 69 it was 300,000. Okay. Now this is a company that is growing, but there were no investment bankers as such. So the banks used to have a problem because there were no cash flows. They would threaten. They would say, "We'll cancel your order. We are not going to do that." And every now and then he used to have a last moment running around. At that time, someone told him that, you know what, there is a Japanese company. They are more like sort of investment bankers, but they will fund you, but they may ask you for some extra percentage or whatever. So this was there at the back of his mind. Now, in the meanwhile, in 67, they take a decision to also have they were having on the western coast, so they decided to take on the east coast, in Boston. Meanwhile, the Japanese company is also searching for another distributor. Now, this is something where they did not like. They were having an agreement with the Onitsuka company that was making Tiger shoes that we are going to be your sole distributors. We are the ones that are making efforts. Meanwhile, as he onboarded staff, his first employee was Jeff Johnson. He was a ex-track player. Okay. Again, if you see his team player, there was Bob Woodell. Now, Bob Woodell is shown in the here. He's on a wheelchair. He had a freak accident and he was on a wheelchair. Then there was Hollister, and at that point of time, how one incident he narrates where this Jeff Johnson, he quits, because he keeps on sending him. There were no emails, but almost every day there would be a letter of suggestion from Johnson. And here Phil Knight would be a very, very conservative. He would not talk much. He would not even reply to the letters of suggestion. It's okay, he would take it on that basis. So once it so happens that Johnson decided to quit. Now, this is an interesting part. So he asks him, "Who told you to quit?" He says, "No, I met my father and he told me I don't think so. It's a good job." So, "Okay, I'll come and meet your father." He goes and meets his father, understands what his father has his concerns, but he knows that Johnson is a very, very passionate person. He's passionate about shoes. He's very interested in the job. So then he looks at Johnson and he gives him a counter offer. He says, "At the most, I can give you just a $50 increment. You take it or leave it." And that time, Johnson, without looking at his father, shakes his hand and says, "Okay, fine, done." So, it's just an incident how he says, how sometimes where you need to be tough, you need to be very clear about the things, what you can give, what you cannot give, and he does it. Now, there's something called the birth of the Cortez. Cortez is a brand, and those days, that's where that there was all these new tracks were coming up. So it is called, they call it as a waffle. There was a machine that made waffles. So Bauman thinks that why don't we put some on the outer sole, we have certain rubberized kind of like a waffle kind of a thing. So he takes the waffle maker. Initially, he spoils it by putting some rubber and it gets stuck over there and burnt. He has to put something. But anyway, and then he puts a little bit of a stainless steel strip in the shoe. So that is that Cortez that is a big hit. It's one of the biggest hits. That's why the sales also go on. And the Japanese company likes because Bauman keeps on giving them suggestions. Please change the shoes to this style. Make it that way. Make it. And the creativity of Nike was doing very well. Now, the 68, I mentioned about the balancing part of his life. Meanwhile, again, as I told you, he was in Japan. He met a girl from USA, only was also touring. So she comes, visits his parents, stays over there for a few days, but goes back with and replies saying that it's over. Like, I mean, that's not her style kind of a thing. So he had a little bit of a letdown also, and he's focusing back on his work. And in 69, what he says, what makes a great team is ex-runners and eccentrics. And one thing is there, constantly the office was becoming bigger and we was outgrowing the offices. So please remember here, growth is life. In every year from 1962 for 8 years, the sales are doubling. Now, if the sales are doubling, you can understand he has to manage so many things, attend to these. Meanwhile, there's a competition. The supplier is also keeping him on the toes. They might give, they might not give, they might appoint somebody else. And every now and then he was facing something like a death sentence. Now, death sentence, what I mean is that the company can close down anytime. If the loan doesn't come through, then what? Like that. Now, there is his employee Woodall who's on the wheelchair and he's badly in need of money. So, one very interesting story he says. So he says, okay, you go and meet my parents. They've got some, they're retired and they've got some savings, their lifetime savings. They're willing to give you $5,000. He goes to their house and asks them, and they say, okay, fine. So they give him $5,000. Then his mother says, like, Woodall's mother says that, do you need more? We can still spare about $3,000. And he says, yes, I need that also. So 8,000 loan, they empty out. And while leaving the door, now see, remember one thing, they are senior citizens, their lifetime savings are given to Phil Knight. And he asks the mother, why are you doing that? And then his mother replies, and this is the sentence that he always remembers in his lifetime. She says, if you can't trust the company your son is working for, then who can you trust? This is very, very impactful. Okay. In the years that go by, probably this $8,000 by stock options, this person is worth 1.6 million in probably 1979 when they have a public offer. And there's this company I was telling about, the Japanese trading company called Nisho EY. Now, what happens is, remember, he was having a problem with the suppliers and he was having a problem with the bankers. So he wanted to have a parallel parallel entity who could supply finance and help him out with the things. So this was the trading company Nisho EY, which through their representatives appreciated it. Now, in the meanwhile, there's another story when he goes to Japan. I mentioned about in this balancing in 68, Fujimoto, who's a spy. I mean, I just called it as a spy. What happened is that when he went to visit Japan, after a couple of years again, for the production to understand, to put forth his idea, once he had to hop onto the plane because he got a news that on the East Coast, somebody else is going to sell and he's not the distributor. And he was very upset because his goodwill was getting spoiled because they were marketing the Tiger shoes and somebody else also was appointed and he was basking in their glory. So in Japan, he meets one person in the boardroom called Fujimoto and he becomes friends with him. So he understands that he was very keen and interested in cycling. So, and he didn't have the money to buy a bicycle. So when he goes back, he sends across $50 with a note to Fujimoto, buy yourself a bicycle and have a good ride. After a few weeks, in those days, the letters take time. So maybe after a month or a few weeks, he gets back a letter from him with the $50 enclosed back saying that I discussed with my seniors and they said that we cannot accept the money. However, if you want to give me, you can send it at home. And that's how he sends that $50 again to his home address for him to buy a bicycle. But that later on, it helps him. So when he goes there, what is happening? In the meantime, somebody else is appointed. There is a person by the name of Kitami. Okay. Kitami was appointed by this Onitsuka shoe company. And again, Kitami was a little bit, you can say, as a double crop. After all, business is dirty, business is war. So he would, probably think something else. So what happens is, birth of the idea of Nike. Now, again, from 62 till 70, there was no Nike. There was just importing the tiger shoes and selling them. Maybe asking Japan to the Japanese company to make changes in those certain shoes for the runners over here from his partner Bauman. And okay, a couple of lines. He always ran when he was stressed. Okay, he double ran the 6 mile run. And now, in the year 71, when their sales are 1.3 million, Kitami has come to the US. Now, he has come to the US in the pretext of visiting his company, Phil Knight's company, but at the same time, he's also come with an agenda. His agenda is to appoint other distributors in the US. Now, what happens is here, there was an incident. So when Kitami came to his office and he was talking, he even told him that otherwise, if you cannot have the money and all, we will buy you out. So that was a little bit of a shocker for him. And when Kitami was shown some other department, he quietly opened his folder. Now it's like a personal, somebody has come to your office, you open his folder and take out one paper which has the list of and phone numbers and appointments of all the other distributors in the other parts of the USA he's going to visit. He takes that. Kitami is again going to visit him the next day. And next day when he comes in, again with some pretext, he plants that folder, that paper back. Now, this is maybe it's a question of moral, whether it was the right thing or the wrong thing. How he justified is that when we were the dealers, behind our backs, why is he appointing somebody else when the agreement is going to be only us that will be exclusive distributors? So if he's doing this way in business and love, everything is fair in love and war. So or everything is fair in love and war. Yeah. So this is one part which I appreciate. He has been very honest, frank, and forthright, and that's where it has paid him dividends. Either in getting the good people, or there was a massive court case by the Japanese company against him for launching Nike. Okay, so now what has happened is the birth of the idea Nike, because they had given exclusive distributorship of Tiger shoes. So how can you have Nike shoes also kept there? Okay, I mean, but this what happens in 71. But this happened because he thought, I need a plan B. Every time we are under pressure. So what happens here? There is Chuck Robinson. Okay, that is his again mentor's friend. So he goes and meets him. Now sometimes one sentence can change the life. It's an idea is worth $1 million, that kind of a thing. So Chuck Robinson says, see, so he says, should I deal with this company, Nisho UI? So he says, see, about the Japanese, if the Japanese trading companies understand the rules from the first day, they will be the best partners you will ever have. So he makes a rule. He tells the Nisho UI people, no equity in my company ever. Then the Nisho UI people say, okay, fine, no equity, no equity. But then you give us some extra percentage on your sales, which he agrees. Now, here, okay, so this is a breakthrough of Cortez, cushioning and nylon breakthrough, but outer sole hadn't changed in 50 years. For new track Oregon Rubber Company, sheet of stainless steel and waffle-like surface. Okay, so this I mentioned. And this is some unique shoe, which was the initial launch, the Waffle Racer. It evolved as a wider, more stable shoe. And in 1972, he gets a letter. And then now this is what Nike is sending it to the employees. Now, this I felt it is very, very important for us also as entrepreneurs to understand that when you're driven against the wall, is it the end or it's a new beginning? So he says that was the day Onitsuka company officially informed me that they were terminating their contract with the Blue Ribbon Sports. Basically, from that day, we were on our own. What could have been a gut punch was a royal kick in the butt that pushed us forward. We were fired. Again, I can recollect with how Steve Jobs was once fired from his own company. I remember thinking, this is it. This is the moment. This is the moment we've been waiting for. Our moment. No more working for someone else. If we are going to succeed or fail, we should do so on our terms, with our own ideas, with our own brand. Because all the while, they were manipulated by this Japanese company because they could, cut their, when they required tremendous quantity of shoes, they would not supply. Now, there were other shoe suppliers also in Japan. So probably that is where that idea was born. But time was of the essence. So they had to keep up that relationship with the Japanese company till they formed their own Nike, till Nike reached a certain level, and till it could be said to, because otherwise it can be a big flop show. If things are not okay, because initially the shoes were not of that good standard, we'll come to that. Okay, then he says, just like that, Nike was born. Even the names also they could not think of, at the last moment he thought, they said it's a four-letter word is good. And then he remembered Nike about his trip to Parthenon, and then he says, okay, fine, that we'll call it as Nike. Even the swoosh also, they were not very sure. He asks, he was a professor in the college at Oregon, and in that department, the other department of arts, the design, he met a student and gave her $35 and asked her to design. And this was the famous swoosh or the logo of Nike that was formed, because they needed that logo quickly to give it to another company, a manufacturer in Mexico, to start making the shoes. Okay. Now he says, we had a dream, a love for sports, a ton of ambition, a trunk full of running shoes, and a big swoosh on all of them. The rest is history, our history. That day, we were 30 people around the table. Looking back, we were pretty damn far from a dream team, but we were athletes. We did what athletes do best. We got better. Every day we got better. With every shoe, we got better. With every new idea, we got better. With every mistake, we got better. And because of that, every athlete got better. Now see how he links it. So ultimately, he's making it for the good for the athletes, the product. From day one, everything we did and still do is to unleash the potential of every athlete around the world, to make you faster, stronger, and more exciting, to help you do things you didn't even know you could do. And it is because of you that we are who we are today. So this was his probably message in 1972. Now, in 72, there was an exhibition in Chicago. Okay, now here is the Chicago show where all the manufacturers of the shoes come in and display. Now, what happens is the people, the news reporters and all who came, they came crowding to their stall. And he says, like, all the typical shoes were gray, white, and this. But he said, let's do something different. So the Nike were orange boxes. Okay, they keep that. They were not very happy with the quality of the shoes that were produced. But they said, still, okay, we will show it. Then we will see how we can improve on them. But the people who come there, this is what they told, because they were very clear cut right from the beginning for the last 10 years. So they say, we have been doing business with you for years, and we know you guys tell the truth. Everyone else bullshits, and you guys always shoot straight. If you say here is a new shoe, Nike is worth a shot, we believe. Now, this is where, as a lesson, if you have a product, if you have a service, it should be world class. This is where that goodwill counts. So this is where the people, and somewhere else also we come across where again they were going to be killed and they survived because of this goodwill. Okay, now here in this year in 72, we are into millions. The sales is 2 million, 73 is 4 million, and 74 is 8 million. Just look at the figures. If as an investment, what an opportunity this is from 1962 till 74, with almost doubling every year. And here, now in 73, they have a big case against the Onitsuka. So they go and meet the good legal firm. In that legal firm, there's a bright young lawyer called Strasser. Now, after some time, he doesn't like law, but they offer him a position and he joins them. So he's a new employee. Of course, there's another story of Strasser down the line we will discuss. Now, here the message in 74. Now here he says, the trial was victory only because of the truthfulness. The judge turned in their favor because, they reached a settlement finally. And now here, there's one thing that I liked. One again, when I'm reading the book and I've underlined it and I've put it over here. See, negotiation with a key employee. This is the Jeff Johnson. Okay. Now the good part about him, sometimes the closer you all are, the stronger you all are. They used to call themselves as butt faces or something like that. The slang word for that before they went public. And he says that first he denied. Suppose there's a shift. At times he shifted 2 of his key employees. He exchanged them from the East Coast. He brought him to the West Coast. He brought him to the East Coast so that to change houses, adjust to the things. So it was very difficult. But how they did it? So the negotiation with the key employee, first he denied that no, I'll not do it. Then he fumed. Then he bargained. Then he got depressed. And finally he accepted. So it's like I call it as a 5 step. So like in a typical, if you're asked to do something as in your own team, and the team sees value, but one thing good is that there's another person I heard about the interview. She said that she was shocked when she joined Nike that she did not expect it to be so open. The employees were given a free and a fair hand to tell exactly what they had in their mind. If they didn't like certain things, they told it. So that's what till these years of the company, till 80, this company was all like this. Okay, the fear of failure will never be a downfall as a company. If we did fail, we had faith that we would do it fast, learn from it, and be better for it. Now, about the employees, this is a quote which they have mentioned, and I would again read it. We'd each given ourselves to some quest, some attempt at validation or meaning, and fallen short. Now, who is key employees? Hayes couldn't become a partner because he was too fat. Johnson couldn't cope in the so-called normal world of 9 to 5. Strasser was an insurance lawyer who hated insurance and lawyers. Woodell lost all his youthful dreams in one fluke accident. I identified with a born loser in each butt face. They used to call themselves butt face. See, in those days, after office, these key people would meet together, discuss maybe over drinks, over letting their hair loose, kind of a thing. But ultimately, each one was sharp in the interest of the company. That's where they would talk about. And they always felt the solution to money was going public. And Phil Knight, till the last, he was against it because he says, no, with that, my freedom will go. I'll have to report to the board. We will not have. So what happens? They struggled with money. They struggled with issues. Their cash flows are very bad. Somewhere down the line, their debt equity ratio was something like 9:1. It was crazy. And but he knew that together they would become winners. So what he says but as a comment, it takes an exceptional leader to recognize the unrefined talent, take a chance in them, resonate with what drives them, and build a great team. Now, the photo I've put over here is of Strasser, undisciplined, irreverent, and occasionally wrong. Robert Strasser is the man who brought you Air Jordan. Now, Air Jordan happens in the 80s after the book is, up till 80s. That's where I will discuss. Now, another good rule, always pay your banker first. So always there has to be his morning chant. Morning again, he had commitments. Again in 75, 76, now see where the sales have gone, 16 million, 32 million. Now, this is 75 is a life-changing, okay, in a couple of ways. His part 1 and part 2. Part 1 is still 75 and half of 75, and part 2 of the book begins after 75. So one incident that took place is suddenly, all of a sudden, his local bank told, we are enough, we are fed up. They called him and they said, we are closing your account. Now imagine at this point of time, he owed the bank $1 million. And $1 million in those times, if you owe the bank, you cannot pay. And there was FBI agents waiting for him to arrest him and put him behind bars. So at that morning when he got up, what was life again? Again, he was facing like a death sentence of the company. So remember one thing, the company today is a $250 billion net worth, and he himself is worth $50-60 billion. But at that point of time, he was a non-entity, not a quoted company. And even though the sales were going tremendously high, there were always tensions of whether tomorrow will be there or not. Now, what happens here is this, when he went to the bank to face the music, and he told the other bankers, the parallel banker, the Japanese banker, Nisho Ishii, say, I'm in this position. And that's the truth. That Nisho Ishii person comes there. Okay, I'll come with you, he says. And when the bankers are telling him that we are closing the account, you have to pay up. And the bankers know that he doesn't have the money. The Japanese banker who's with him, the guy from Nisho Ishii, he tells the bankers, how much does he owe you? I mean, he has the figures, he has given him. So the bankers give the figure, almost whatever that $1 million. Straight away, he issues the check and gives it to that banker and says, here is the $1 million. He's paying it off in full. And he mumbles and he says, and that Japanese banker says such stupidity. So for a moment, Phil Knight thinks that he's calling Phil Knight stupid. But what the Japanese banker is saying that these bankers don't know. They treated a good customer shabbily and they didn't want to have to answer for their actions. This I would like to a little bit focus on to tell you that how that goodwill matters, how truthfulness matters. Some time back, when they had a fight against the Japanese company Onitsuka, the Onitsuka company said that y'all were supposed to buy shoes from us. We have come to know you'll have set up another facility in the US. That's a breach of contract. And prior to that, when they were tying up with Nisho Ishii comes to know, and Phil Knight has a sheepish smile. They didn't tell them that they had already started a second manufacturing company away from Japan as their backup. Because tomorrow the Japanese company says no, where they will stand. So they needed a backup. So this Japanese company, Nisho Ishii, understood. So the thing depends on the leadership. So they said, okay, you did not tell us, but that's fine. It was in the good interest. You all wanted to have a backup plan. So that's why they back him. So they appreciated Phil Knight for his truthfulness and what they saw the future in him. So that was one part. Now in 75, the second part is there is something called Steve Prefontaine. Steve Prefontaine is there in his small picture is there. He was supposed to be a dynamite, a superb, one minute, a superb find for the US team, for the Olympics probably. And unfortunately, they just met him one day before, and next day morning he gets a call that he had met with an accident and he's passed away. Now, he has clocked the highest, he had broken the 4-minute barrier to the mile. And when he gets the news of the accident, now here he thinks beyond that. So he said, push yourself to the edge. So as long as we are in business, we would find money for things like that. See, now they were cash strapped, but the car which they had gifted him, they got him a job because he needed money. And he drove that car, probably hit a bump, car flew up in the air, he flew out of the car and the car landed on his chest, and that's how it was an accident and he passed away. So they wanted to build a monument, and even though they didn't have the money, they said for such things, as long as we are in business, Nike will find money for things like that. So this was the beginning of the second part of 75. Now, here, another message which is there is, let's keep going anyway. I didn't want to lose because losing was death. Nike culture, money was only the means to get there. It wasn't the aim or the end game. So what he says, again here, the culture of Nike, it was not money as such. Essence may have been money. Okay, now let's take to the last 3 years, 77, 78, 79. Now again, the sales, 64 million, 140 million, and the tagline that came, Nike Air, there's no finish lines. Okay, now here, the essence of the book, okay, problems are never going to stop. But for the moment, we had more momentum than problems. A valuable marketing lessons we can learn from this is that even back in then 77, they didn't start speaking about the product. Okay, now this is what about Nike. They didn't advertise a running shoe and they said, this is the latest shoe, buy it now. They started with a concept that inspires runners. In the end, they communicated about their mentality as a company. The sale was in the end. Now, again, there were now another major thing was happening in the meanwhile. Okay, now what happens now when it says hard work pays off? Maybe the cure for any burnout is just to work harder. Now here one problem went out, another thing came up. Now what happened is there is competition. So probably they had one old rule, a law in America with the US customs that if you're importing the shoes and there is a price of a shoe in your country which is at a certain level, and you're importing it at a much lower level, then the difference you have to pay as customs. So what some of the competitors did is they introduced a particular shoe which they did not sell much, but they priced it very, very effectively low. So that if that is a benchmark, they get a letter from the US Customs, Nike gets a letter from the US Customs. that you owe us $20 million. Now, $20 million is a sure shot when their sales are 140 million, but there are no cash flows. The US Customs was demanding $20 million. Now, this is something that probably created a whole lot of challenges, where that time Strasser's help was in this thing. He shifts Strasser to Washington, so lobby with the respective ministers, the members of the parliament and the assembly, and see what they could do. Finally, at the end, they win. Okay, at the end they win. But what happens is, it has taken the toll, and they decide. And now in 79, I've written China. See, what is happening is, Japan, the costs were going up, and China was not that discovered. Nike was the first shoe company to enter China. Again, China had a different type of rules. They had to be invited. So he knew one person, one employee who was connected with China. Earlier was in Hong Kong, and then they set it up and they get that entry in China, where it was one of their big manufacturing bases. Now, at this point of time in 1980, okay, the sales are 64 million. He redefined winning. You remember I told you, see, first in the dawn, he was running. And for him, the meaning of winning was not losing. Okay, so that was one meaning at that time. Now here he says, each new day brought 50 new problems, 50 tough decisions needed, and they had to be made straight away. Any one wrong move could be the end. Margins of error were getting narrower, while the stakes were climbing higher. Now, earlier winning meant not losing, of merely staying alive. Now, finally, they decided to go public, and he just mentions at night and again, he negotiated with this thing. They said, you won't get more than $20 to the share. He says, no, I want 22. Again, they hang the phone up. Again, the merchant bankers call him. No, it'll be 21, then 21.5. He says, sorry, 22, take it or leave it. Finally, they call, okay, fine, 22. And that day, he says, that night, nothing changed. He was still the same person. Least for me, how humble he was. And yet, I was worth 178 million. Next day, I showered, ate breakfast, drove to work. I was at my desk before anyone else. Now, this is again a message I feel that, whether you are worth millions or billions or whatever, you are still your own self. And somewhere as a sidetrack, just to share with you that two things happened in his life at this stage. One, he used to teach, and there probably he met Penelope, and she was a student, an account student, very quiet, very shy, and probably that's why he appreciated, he fell in love, and she stood first, and then he got the courage, he spoke to her, met her parents, and they got married. They had 2 children, and the challenge he always faced was the balancing between family time and work time, but his wife was rock solid. And the other thing is that he was asked by the others, how come do you always employ accountants or lawyers? So he was an accountant himself. So his bandwidth was limited, but he says a very interesting view. He says, in order to be an accountant or a lawyer, you have to pass through tough exams. It's very difficult. You should know a lot of things. So the benchmark is that the very fact you're an accountant or a lawyer, of course, it's with due respect to the other professions. It's just that in that book, how it comes through. So that's why many of his people were from that particular field. Now, this is the new definition which he thought about winning. So here he says, when you make something, when you improve something, when you deliver something, when you add some service or product to the lives of strangers and make them happier or healthier or safer or better, and when you do it all crisply and efficiently, smartly, the way everything should be done but seldom is, you are participating more fully in the whole vast human drama. More than simply alive, you are helping others to live more fully. And if that's business, then all right, call me a businessman. So I found this very intriguing and very nice. So that's why I thought I'll highlight this. I'll send this what you call presentation, so you can have an access. And then his last chapter is night. Now, in this particular chapter, when he talks of night, he recollects all the things. And here he says that, after 40 years of stepping down, the CEO, Nike, as the CEO. See, he steps down first as a CEO, and 10 years later, when he's 77, he steps down as the chairman. Okay. So that time Nike was 16 billion and Adidas was 10 billion. That was in 2012. Now, in that last chapter, he reminisces. He says he walked the razor's edge of entrepreneurship between safety and catastrophe. Now, this part, what I laid stress in the first chapter was dawn, and that chapter and where he travels across 15 countries. Now, see where the dots get connected. He says at Nike campus, I don't see buildings, I see temples where work is worship. Any building is a temple if you make it so. Now, he remembers at 24 at Parthenon, he never fails to experience a sensation of time folding in on itself. Now, there's something very unique he writes in the book. Now, you call it a coincidence, you call it karma, you call it faith, whatever you call it. He says they had many, what you call brands. Okay. The biggest brand, I'll talk about it a little later now, was Michael Jordan. Okay. Because of him, Nike totally eclipsed Adidas, went 10, was a 10 bagger, and just Air Johnson sold more than a billion. And this, so Michael Jordan, okay, now in his at age 24, he had gone to River Jordan. Now see this is Michael Jordan, there is River Jordan. He had been to Kobe, his first place in Japan, to visit the spirituality, etc. And there was the Kobe Bryant, one of their great runners, and their masterpieces of promotion, endorsements. Then Tiger shoes they were selling earlier, and Tiger Woods, he was a strong candidate, strong brand for Nike. Okay, this is one coincidence. Second coincidence he talks of is Nike's number ends in 6453. In America, there's alphabetic also keypad. So 6453 is a keypad for Nike, which is also their first sponsor, Prefontaines. Best time in the mile from the right to the left to the decimal of the seconds, 3 minutes, 54.6 seconds. So this part, he culminates by saying that this is nothing. And he's very deeply grateful, the gratitude, where he says that on the Nike campus, it's a living, breathing expression of that vital human emotion, maybe the most vital of all after love, that is gratitude. And there is something else he mentions. Again, he talks a little bit on spirituality. I say by pure chance, but is it really? Am I allowed to think that some coincidences are more than coincidental? Can I be forgiven for thinking, hoping that the universe or some guiding demon has been nudging me, whispering to me, or she's just playing with me? Can it be really, but nothing of a fluke of geography, that the oldest shoes ever discovered are a pair of 9,000-year-old sandals salvaged from the cave in Oregon, where he comes from? Is there nothing to the fact that sandals were discovered in 1938, the year I was born, 24th February? Now, again, he quotes something else. To study the self is to forget the self. Mi casa, su casa. That's another of his trips where he has been probably to Egypt and the others. And the last he says is oneness. In some way, shape or form, it's what every person I've met is seeking. This is the book review part. But now if I go to the timeline, in 1962, he was 24, the world tour. In 1964, he launched the Blue Ribbon at 26. In 1930, he got married. In 1933, the shoe Nike was born. The sales 16 million, 24, 140 million in 78. At 40, at 42, at 42, in 1980, that was the time until the book, he wrote the book. Now, in 2004, at 66 age, he steps down as the CEO. Now, remember one thing, there has been a tragedy in his life a couple of years ago. His second son, Matthew, passed away. And again, he mentions that He had gone into some philanthropic activity in El Salvador, and then he had gone for a scuba diving, where probably it was later on discovered that he had some pre-existing congenital illness in the heart, where he got a heart attack underwater and he passed away. So he visualized that maybe he was in a happier, that's what kept him a little alive, or the sanity. But he steps down. Then, as a chairman, he steps down, and the release of the Shoe Dog happens in 2016. His memoirs he coins at age 78, and couple of years back, he himself was worth $60 billion, and he's donated $2 to $3 billion to the school, to his college, for the cancer, and so many causes. Now, there is some part missing. Okay, what I'm saying is that the missing part, what I thought. Okay, now a couple of other pointers to share. He says, which I appreciate his gesture. One of the worst things about the shoe factory used to be is the rubber room, where uppers and soles are bonded. The fumes are choking, cancer causing. So we invented a water-based bonding agent that gives off no fumes, thereby eliminating 97% of carcinogens in the air. Then they gave this invention to the competitors, handed it over to anyone who wanted it. They all did. Nearly all of them now use it. Now, this is a gesture of generosity. This is something, which is really worthwhile for us to bear in mind as a knowledge point. Then there is this girl effect. Now, see, what has happened is they had their fair share of issues. Somebody said that, wherever factories of Nike were there, they employed people. They did not give them good working conditions. But what he says is that, he's a little bit touched. He's a little bit offended. He says, whichever place we went, we have improved the conditions. But because of that little, they used to burn some effigies in outside his headquarters, what they did in some place in Philippines, or the workers, maybe he felt that some lobby found some worker were disgruntled, took his interview, and they magnified it. But anyway, in 10 years' time, all of the places where they source their materials in China, etc., wherever, it's world class. That's what he says. And girl effect means he has some provision, donations, and all for the girl child. That is one. Then he quotes about peace feeds on prosperity. Okay, so there's always there has to be prosperity for everyone. It was a catch-22 situation where some country opposed him paying higher salaries to the workers because it upset the entire economy. Okay, that's what he talks of. Now he says, there's one quote, somebody asked him, so he goes to Vietnam, okay, and then his desire is to meet the general over there, who actually won the war against the Americans. He gets an opportunity to meet the general, the Vietnam factory officers and all, they agree. And that time when he has a meeting with him, is a very short person, general, he asked him the question, how did he do it? And one answer he got from him, one line was, with a twinkle in his eye, he says, I was a professor of the jungle. He applies it. So we all have to be a professor of the jungle. We have to be, whichever field we are in, whichever jungle we are in, we have to be real thorough in that, how it works, how it does. Then he says, giving up is not equal to stopping. This is another tagline, It doesn't mean, so sometimes you have to give up, but it doesn't mean you're stopping. Give up if you're on the wrong road, give that up, do something else, switch. Luck plays a big role. He does say, he admits luck plays a big role. Now this is what I like, this line. He says, have faith in yourself, but have faith in faith. Not faith as others define it, but faith as you define it. Faith as faith defines yourself in your heart. So basically, be your own, follow your own moral compass and do that. Now, this is the photograph I got from the Google, from the information. This was in 2015 when the sales were 30 billion. So he announced that he will step down. And now this is something maybe 30, 40, 50, 60 years back. He used to give every employee, it was a typewritten letter by him on the principles. The first one, our businesses change. Can you believe 30, 40 years, today we talk of change. He's talking of change so many years back in 1962, 63, 64. Our businesses change. We are on offense all the time. Perfect results count, not a perfect process. Break the rules, fight the law. Now, I'll come to that in the next slide. how they have broken the rule and how they have done this thing. This is as much about battle as about business. Assume nothing. Make sure people keep their promises. Push yourselves, push others, stretch the possible. Live off the land. Your job isn't done until the job is done. Until the job is done. Dangers of bureaucracy, personal ambition, energy takers versus energy givers, knowing our weaknesses, don't get too many things on the platter. Ninth, it won't be pretty. And 10th, if we do the right things, we'll make money damn near automatic. It will be process driven. And after this, now this is something which I said in the next slide, break the rules. Now, there's another story about Michael Jordan. I would urge every one of you, please buy the book, read the book, and watch this movie Air. It's on Prime Prime Video. Okay, now it's a 2 hours movie, but it tells a story of how how Nike gets Michael Johnson and how they do something different. Now, basically, it's a controversial beginning when it released the first Air Jordan. Now, what happens when Michael Jordan, remember, he was a fan of Adidas. Okay, he was a fine. Now they had Sunny, one person working where Strasser it was their employee founded what you call, he could get Michael Johnson to be the main person. Michael Johnson was not interested, but the person Sunny went all the way to Michael Johnson's house. It was breaking the rules. They bypassed his manager. Okay, and they bypassed the manager. It was something, it was very critical. We said, no, the manager was not listening. He said, no, he will not. That's why I went. He meets the mother. The psychology is Michael Johnson was a black person. And usually, I mean, the philosophy was they do listen to their mother's. Mother was the controlling this thing. So he talks to the mother and he tells her, the mother says, see, I can't guarantee you we will come. So when they come, she whispers, say that he's least interested, but he will at least pay attention. And that was their make or break. That's why I said, see the movie, how they actually get the chief designer overnight to design a shoe tailored for Michael Johnson. Whereas Michael Johnson had gone to Converse, Michael Johnson had gone to Adidas. And this person, Sunny, tells Michael Johnson's mother, in Converse, they will ask you these questions, these things they will show off. In Adidas, you just ask one question, who's the controlling? Because at that time, see, Adidas was 50 years older than it was founded before the World War by two brothers, Adolf Dassler and Rudolf Dassler, two brothers. Okay, earlier it was not called Adidas. After some years, the brothers split. So Adi Dassler, Adolf was called Adi. So Adi Dassler became Adidas, and Rudolf started another company called Puma. So imagine Puma and Adidas in the same village, two shoe manufacturers, in that arena. And they would be offering, or they would match the offer of $250,000 at that time to Michael Johnson. And Michael Johnson, when Sunny sees that video of him, how relaxed he is, how he takes the ball, he predicts that Michael Johnson is going to be the find of the millennium in basketball, is going to be the best. Now, believing in the best, how they picture it, they tell him that this shoe is going to be designed for you and it will be called Air Jordan. Now, this is a clincher. So even if Adidas has given the same price, but Michael Jordan's mother phones Sunny and she tells, perhaps you missed out one small line. I mean, now I'm the person in control. We don't have our manager. And she tells him that, but every shoe that his name is there and he gets into, I want a cut. Now, this was a make or break. That's why I said breaking the rules. It was never done in the industry. It was never done in the industry. And they told also that, we will give him the color red. In those days, red shoe was banned. It had to have certain white and some combination. So this was not going to, and there would be a $5,000 fine. You know what Nike did? They said, we'll pay the fine for every match, but he will be wearing this shoe. That created a whole sensation, and the sales all ripped off, went overboard. And Michael Jordan was a legend, and Air Jordan became one of the best sellers. Okay, and this is the movie on Prime Video. It's called Air. There's Matt Damon and there's Ben Affleck and all. It's a wonderful movie. I saw this. And one more thing to keep yourself updated. Now, this was in the 1980s. What about 2020 to 22? Again, Adidas also came up. Then there's another, there's something called Business Wars. Okay. Now, Business Wars, there is this by Wonder Eats a podcast. thanks to our member advocate Manish Kenya, he told me, you watch this also. That's also very interesting. So this also, there are a couple of 45 minutes or 30 minutes podcasts, about 4, 5 podcasts. It's very interesting, and for the members of the KCF, the entrepreneurs in them, if you see this, it's going to be like, for me, it was a life-changing one. And I do not know as the time goes. I've been just running through. I'm very excited. I'll just a couple of slides more now on the personal lines. Uh, these are the learnings. Okay, don't go to sleep one night. What you most want will come back to you. This was in Turkey. He got it. I've mentioned about it, but the quote of the Rumi, Kobe, the blue ribbon, love truth but pardon error. That's in Rome. He got this message. In the Victoria Peak in Hong Kong, he gets a message. The man who moves mountains begins by carrying small stones. He goes on the Victoria Peak. Then again, at Wat Phra Ku in Thailand, at the Buddhist statue, he looks at it and he says, "Why am I here? What is my purpose?" From the Upanishads, he gets this thing: "Lead me from the unreal to the real." Now, this is where the things have, emanated in his mind. How he could digest the shock of the loss of his son, and his, but in that movie also, he talks of deep breathing in, breathing out, and maintaining the things going for the run. Don't tell people how to do things, tell them what to do and let them surprise you with their results. That's the pattern. That's the another American general, he who says a soldier in shoes is only a soldier, and in boots, sorry, this is a typo, it's not books, it's boots, he becomes a warrior. Okay, now the swoosh design. Okay, so this is the swoosh was designed in 1971 by Carolyn Davidson, a graphic design student at Portland, and he just paid a 35. And now see, this is the photograph of. Now I did a little bit of this thing in. I live in Panjim, so in Panjim, this is the shop of Nike. There's no word Nike; it's just the brand, the swoosh. I went to this shop after reading the book, and. This was his Oregon Trail, where he signs off by saying, "The cowards never started and the weak died along the way. That leaves us, ladies and gentlemen, us." So this is the, okay, a penultimate end of the book review, but I'll just skip a few slides because I think there is a little bit. Mukesh bhai, do we have some time, 5, 10 minutes? Okay. So this is what I wanted to share, something more. Okay. Now remember, elevating Nike through the influence of athletes and celebrities. Okay. They believed, see, earlier they used to, Nike started the trend. Let's catch hold of, if you have a budget for supposing 4, 5 athletes, no, let's find one athlete and go behind him. Make or mar kind of a thing. So the endorsement. So Michael Jordan, by the way, the passive income Michael Jordan earned last year for 23 was 150 million. He's earned over 1 million. Passive income meaning not that endorsement you give him 100,000. Now, of course, people talking $1 million and all. You give him one time. No, whatever the sale of the products go, they get. So they get it as a continuous income of sorts. So endorsement amount, Michael Jordan is 1.3 billion. LeBron James, Cristiano Ronaldo, Tiger Woods, Serena Williams, Kobe Bryant, Travis Scott. Now, these are some slides of lessons. Okay. It is like formalized education and training can make you a linear thinker. Remember, success and reality are non-linear. Okay. The Nike revenue, life is growth, you grow or you die. Cash is in a growth business is a forever problem. Every penny you make is reinvested back in the business, and you will struggle to make every single payment and live on the float. Nike was doubling their, he talks of Nike doubling their sales year over year, but was still cash poor. They kept borrowing every nickel they could plow. Now look at this slide of cash and debt. The accountants in us group were watching it. Look at the black debt. Like, what a crazy ratio it was. 9:10. Any moment the company could have just sunk. We had to figure out how to significantly boost supply without taking on huge inventory risk. Always pay your banker no matter what. And supply and demand are the root problem in business. It's hard enough to invent and manufacture and market a product, but then logistics, mechanics, hydraulics of getting it to the people who want it and they want it, that's how the companies die. Now, this is like you are remembered for the rules you break. Then they talk of the beating the competition is relatively easy, but beating yourself is a never-ending commitment. And the brands showed here what Adidas was: a gorilla, David and Goliath, that possessed all the arrogance of a company that had unchallenged dominance of the marketplace, or how the things have changed. And incidentally, when Michael Jordan's parents and with this went to Adidas, uh, the mother asked that question that this guy had from Nike had told her to ask that who's in control or who takes decisions. At that time, Adidas, the founder had passed away. So probably his wife, his widow was there, and some other members were there of the family. So she says, I'm in control. But the other person says, we all are in control. And then she mutters in German, something to him. So they get the message. So they're not very comfortable. That's how, actually that movie is to be watched, how exactly they. And last line here, meeting, don't dare feel sorry for me. I'm here to kill you. I mean, that is competition is competition. And remember that shop which I went, I showed you. Well, this is the shoe that I bought for myself. And I started walking, running. So over and out. Thank you, uh, Mukesh Bhai, for giving me an opportunity to share. And over to you.
Thank you, Rajesh bhai. I think that was a very good presentation and a good summary of a very iconic brand. Uh, Nike is one of the is the topmost brand in terms of the the logo, the swoosh logo, even the tagline, "Just do it." It just comes in the top of the mind of anybody who is who is aware and who is a businessman. Anybody for anybody, the Nike is one of the top brands. So all the people whoever have questions, please free to just ping on the questions here in the Q&A. We would be glad to answer them. So one question which I had in mind was that as you went to that shop where there was just a logo and no name of no Nike name was present and it's just a swoosh brand. So you can see the swoosh brand is the one of the most recognizable brand. But lately, what I observe is that in last 10 years, the focus on logo on many businesses has gone down, where we can't recall a very iconic brand, a logo which has come up in last 10 years. Do you agree with that, or do you have any reasons for why the businesses are not focusing on logo and in their brand development?
That's a good question. See, just to share with you, now I love I love shoes. I like some brands like Skechers and some experiences which are there. But coincidentally, I never bought a Nike before. I mean, if I can just answer your question in a little in a different way. Nike as such, see, let's look at the top brands. Okay, you look at Apple. If you see the Apple Store also, it's just if in a BKC also, if you just see, it's just the logo.
Yeah.
Okay, they are very strong on that. Of lately means maybe because of competition, the amount of brands that are coming out, everyone wants to dramatize, look at it. Maybe it gets diluted, but in my experience over here, when I saw it's a own store, it is not franchised. So the employees are trained. The person who came to me allowed me to browse, so I saw the apparels part of it, and I mean, not only the shoes, I also bought the pair of socks there because to try out, I'd gone with my Skechers chappals and and this thing. Uh, but what I liked is the vibration. There is no finish line was written. Every store is branded, like Starbucks. Everything is branded. Starbucks also has that green mermaid. Or I'm just thinking of some brands which McDonald's. Okay, these are all a little bit side brands, American brands, but because America believes in that branding. In the Indian part of it, brand exercise, what can we think of? I mean,
I
the
mean, there are
answer.
very few brands which come to my mind in the Indian perspective, which
Huh.
are iconic. I mean, there is Amul, there is the most I think recognizable brand nowadays is Aadhaar, the logo,
Okay.
Aadhaar logo.
Mhm.
Otherwise, there are very. I mean, I feel that many businesses are not focusing on the logo development. Maybe there
Mm.
are taglines, there are brand names, but brand logo is something which can be focused on.
See, if you look at it this way, let's say like which is the most recognized black brand. Okay, now suppose let's say right now it only come the American names like Apple, Coca-Cola.
Mhm.
Uh, if you see, like say, me being an Apple fan, if I look at Apple, no, it symbolizes everything which you feel of. It may be higher priced, but it comes at a quality. It is unfailing. See, right now I'm on my iMac. Okay, hopefully the clarity should be. I'm very happy that the clarity is good. Apple is, it makes my work that easy. And I've been a fan for the last 20 years, and that logo has actually defined and helped me a lot. Whether you carry your MacBook, I'm just, I mean, not again in this to impress you, but to impress upon you. The logo part of it, if you ask me personally, I feel it symbolizes a lot. It summarizes a lot. Brevity. The reason is today there's social media. So very often that logo is more recognizable uh, than anything else. Maybe a lot of businesses have to uh, come up, grow, and maybe at that level what we look at. I don't know. I mean, I'm also like a player out here. So if you all have a different view, please. Yes, Mukesh bhai.
Yeah.
A different thought over here. There is a difference between spending and buying.
Mhm.
Right? Spending कुछ जरूरत है, मैंने पैसा spend किया. Buying is something जहाँ you buy a brand. You said it's costly, but buying that brand, spending more money, paying more money, I think it glorifies the success of the buyer.
Right.
It glorifies the success of the buyer. Are you proud of yourself? Otherwise you would always want to save money. एक शर्ट मैंने पहना है, a normal shirt, तो मैंने पहन लिया. But if I'm wearing a branded shirt, when would I wear a branded shirt? Either I'm going for some important meeting or I'm in a very good mood. Because of something that has happened, something good that has happened, and I'm in a very good mood, and I say, "नहीं, आज मैं अच्छे कपड़े पहनता हूँ," for example, or let me buy a good brand phone, Apple or something, Samsung. So buying a brand glorifies your success. A brand is created because of the success of that brand, but it gets attached to my success also when I'm using that brand. Something, a new angle which I just came to my mind. It glorifies the success of the user, of the consumer. अगर आप सक्सेसफुल नहीं हो ना, तो आपको ब्रांड पे एक्स्ट्रा पैसा खर्चा करने का इच्छा ही नहीं होगा. Think that way.
Yeah, Vivek bhai, can you just unmute Deven Chheda? He wants to share some brand and logo experience.
Yes, I will. I am giving access to Devin Bhai to speak. He can speak now. Yeah, so you can speak.
Deven bhai, you are unmute now.
Yeah, can you hear me now? Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Hey, good day, everyone. Thanks, Rajesh bhai. I just wanted to share my experience. I worked at PepsiCo North America. Okay. And the very first day when I'm joining, I was just sitting at the entry lobby, and then they escorted us to the room where they did the induction program. The very first question was like, did you see the logos in front desk? Yeah. Do you see all the logos of PepsiCo over there? No. Then what do you think those are? Then, I mean, nobody was able to understand, but what was that question? But the answer was all those logos which were there on the wall, all were 1 billion brand for the PepsiCo. So the reason I wanted to share is when we are doing our business and we are having our brand or logos, that needs to be displayed at a very good place so that everyone who is walking into our premises, they should be knowing what are they looking at. And the other thing I was learned over there for the rivals is Pepsi and Coke, right? They are the biggest rival of the earth. I mean, if you want to have a Coke and you enter into the Pepsi premises, it's not allowed. But over here, when I come to India, I go to Tata Motors. I see a Mahindra car sitting on a desk. of someone. So and those kind of stuff which we are as a society are not good at, but over US they are pretty cutthroat competition. Just want to share that. Thanks.
Thanks, Devin. We agree with you. In fact, these brands and the iconic brands like Pepsi, Coca-Cola, or even the Nike and Adidas. These are the competitions. The rivalry in US is much more prominent uh, between the brands than what we see in India. In India, there is also we can see between Tata and Jio or Reliance. These are some iconic rivalries which needs to be studied separately. I have another question from Dhiresh Gosalia. He said, can this be related to Gita? Keep on doing your deeds without expectation and you would be rewarded as per your efforts. Rajesh bhai.
Uh, Definitely. See, the reason why I spent a lot of time in the opening, I mean, this is another way of looking at it. Like, I feel maybe, if we were 24 or our children at that age, because a client of mine had told me I couldn't do it for my son. He said, like, when he finishes college, just ask him to backpack and go to Europe and travel, kind of a thing. So when Phil Knight went to all these places, if you see, they're very, very unique, whether it is the um, Turkey, the Varanasi, we went to Nepal. They were all kind of the Athens. They were all spiritually kind of inclined. Give him that aura of spirituality, aura of acceptance. In fact, in the book also, I think I have it here. If I can just take away quote it. I a lot of material, but at the end, when he says it's the night time, I'll just see just a moment. He calls it the Tao, the karma, the gyan. So somewhere he has connected himself to the Gita part also, because he had been to Varanasi, and that's why he had quoted something from the Upanishads. It is, but here again, when he founded the company, he founded it with a kind of a gut feeling that he wanted to be a part of the track. He could not achieve that high levels of running, but he was a part of it. And then when he faced certain competition, he got good and bad. He also got challenges from the Japanese company Onitsuka, and at the same time from the Nisho Ishkai, the other Japanese company, he got support. So probably I would believe in what you say. Each company, corporate, like when you say corporate wars, maybe in some philosophy, the by art of war. Maybe some corporates in India, the top corporates might believe in that you kill the competition.
So there is also a story of how Bill Bowerman reinvented the modern running shoe. So it is there in the book Shoe Dog.
Yes.
Yeah. So one morning while watching his wife making waffles, he imagined the waffle texture on a running shoe might
Yes.
with the traction on artificial turf and revolutionize the footwear as a result.
That's a very nice. In fact, if you read that book, I would strongly suggest, I mean, you read the Shoe Dog. It's very inspiring. See, I mean, I myself, I read it once. I read it a little bit second time, highlighting it. I made my own small notes of some 7, 8 pages, where I'm talking to you all and how I will see, then converted it up. But while doing this process, I got into it. So what I wanted to tell you all is that, don't read 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 20 books. Read quality. Like I would say in a year, read 2, 3 good books, and that will make a lot of difference. So, I mean, I would classify this as, because see, on the cover of the book, what I liked is there are two people, Bill Gates and Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett says the best book I read last year, Phil is a gifted storyteller. And Bill Gates says, and Bill Gates usually recommends good books. He likes to read and a refreshingly honest reminder of what the path to business success really looks like. It's an amazing tale. But throughout the path to his success or to his story, everywhere he's always fighting for money, challenges one after the other. So the storyline is, still he has overcome. Meanwhile, what is very, very appreciative of this book is you look at the sales figures, they are constantly doubling, and this side there are constant problems. it's another. So in the Gita, or in a philosophical way, there will be challenges. Like life is not a bed of roses, but at the same time, if you accept it that there are challenges and you overcome every one of them, it gets the best out of you. So that is also part of a life that we all lead. And I personally believe, I mean, ultimately do your best. Now here, it's like when you're sharing something for a book book review or this thing, it may be for an hour, but that 1 hour, our inputs have been probably 9x, 10x, or whatever. But it does give at the end. I was just discussing before the beginning of this with Chirag Bhai and all that we learn so much from it. Like I got involved in it, and I feel that it has helped me a lot. It has developed me a lot. So probably that Gita, like don't expect this. And at the end you end up getting more.
Yes, that's true. Every story has an inspiration. I mean, somewhere every businessman who has made it has some has risen from a very challenging background. I mean, this is the story of everybody over here. Even we in our businesses face a lot of challenges, and it is all about how we overcome them. And these stories are all about how we overcome them. And this is the main crux of the book reviews, which we do every month, and we aim to do every month. Uh, I would request you all to post your comments on and your insights and thoughts on the Jambo app later. Let us have more interactions, and let us be more interactive and help each other in our businesses. We have a very good our own close social network, and we should use them. And I would request all the non-members over in the participants to become a member in KCF and join KCF and enrich our knowledge base. So I'll go over to Mukesh Bhai to who will give a vote of thanks and conclude the.
Thank you, Chirag. Thank you, Rajesh. You are now you are now becoming inspiration, to the attendees. Listening to the way you narrated, as if some storyteller director को बोल रहा है कि ये story ऐसे है, and then the director starts visualizing, हाँ इसमें movie कैसे बन सकती है, and then director narrating it to his hero and heroine, his characters, and they start visualizing के हमको इस कैरेक्टर में कैसे घुसना है. The way you narrated a life journey of an entrepreneur, how important is to get into a business of your passion. There are very, very few people who are really lucky to get into a business of their passion, and that makes a whole lot of difference. Possibly somewhere it happened to me also, being a chartered accountant, started practice, and somewhere for you also, where we left our practice and we started pursuing something जिसके लिए शायद we were more passionate than the audit and the tax laws. I think that really makes a lot of difference. Um, Another, I think the quick takeaway was thinking of your user, your clients, the user, how he can still benefit, what changes can I make to my product. And it's a continuous evolution. It's not that कि चलो मैं माल बेच रहा हूँ, but when you think of the ultimate user and उसको आप भगवान, your customer, when you start thinking of him as a god, and आप god को better and better offerings देते जा रहे हैं, and if that angle of spirituality, different ways, like you when you connect with your customer, with all the stakeholders, it's like you're connecting with the universe, and the way you do business is totally different. uh, Being truthfulness to your business is a part of that. Having a right team is so important, and listening to them, being open to their reviews, innovations. I think it's a great learning for all of us. And the idea of KCF to have these book reviews. We started long back, in fact, physically we were doing, but we were not successful. Very few people were attending. But now we said, let us go ahead on Zoom, and irrespective of the number of people attending, doesn't matter. But the quality that we get during book reviews and the limited number of whosoever are interested in book reviews, I think it's a great time that we are spending all together. And I can promise you that it will be our endeavor to do it on a monthly basis. Apart from Rajesh, who has promised to do it every month, there are now other people who are also raising hands and would like to do a book review. So please come forward if you are anyone of you are interested in doing so. We will offer you a chance to do it. Only condition being that you need to be a member of KCF, then only you can get that chance. And of course, I would love to have all of you, all the non-members as KCF. Rajesh, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, with reference to the Gita, this now I just opened the book. I found, see, at one point of time, Phil Knight did not like the betrayal. One of his key members, Strasler, left him. That's one thing. They had a big argument, and he says that we both had big egos, so we were the unforgiving types. He left him, but he became a consultant to the competitor Adidas. Unfortunately, he passed away, and Phil regretted because he didn't go for the funeral. Now, later part of it, he says, but I'm quite relieved to see that we accepted his daughter to work with us, and now she's in a different department handling it. Just think about it from that Gita angle, do your work.
Yeah.
I don't know how the connect is that, but maybe that is one part I'm just sharing from the book.
Yeah. It's a totally different. You do only business and you add spirituality, concept to it, and the way you do business is totally different. And while you were discussing, Rajesh, it gave me some ideas for our future programs. Also, one was the thinking linearly and non-linearly. B school thinking that studies everything probably teaches you to think linearly. And in fact, KCF had done a program on mind mapping many years back, which actually taught you on non-linear thinking. Maybe we can do a program on that again. Another was I think we can do a program of understanding your cash flows and profits. I think it's very, very essential. People who might not be from the finance background and people who are focusing only on profits but not on cash flows, and later on, getting into financial issues. I think probably doing a program on understanding of cash flows and profits we could do. The topic of knowing the logos, we are also thinking internally on doing a business quiz, where we will test your knowledge of your understanding of various CEOs and logos and whatnot about the business. So that is also in our mind. I'm opening our future ideas to all of you. So just to motivate our members and also for non-members to become members, because a lot of value is there in becoming a member of KCF. I'll just ask Vivek to put on a slide of our membership thing. So the membership fees are really peanuts. It's an annual membership of just 6,000 rupees for an individual membership, and for corporate membership where you get membership for two people. But the value, the program, number of programs, just imagine 12 programs in terms of book review that you are going to get every year. And there are going to be at least 8-10 seminars. There are going to be so many workshops. We send weekly snippets. We do a 10x summit every year. Where are you going to get all this value just for a membership fee of 6,000? I'd also now like to tell you about the two future programs that we are going to have. One is on, Vivek, can you put on those slides? Next program of 7th of June. Yes. So this is a program along with Velinkar School of Management at Matunga. It's a knowledge series for young business owners, entrepreneurs, probably the second generation of a family business entrepreneurs. This is going to be very, very interesting. It's on 7th of June evening, 6 p.m. at Velinkar Auditorium, an excellent campus. Entry is free for our members, but you will have to call on this number. You may note down, but the members are going to get a message regarding this. So no need of noting down. You are going to get this. So this is free for KCF members. So this program is on 7th of June at Wellington. If you're not seen the auditorium, don't miss out. And this is another important big announcement we are going to make, that KCF has tied up with Harvard Business School. हमने एक agreement किया on Harvard Business School, where the online programs of Harvard Business School will be offered now to KCF members. So you will start getting information on this. The members will start getting, and a special prize awaits you only for members. And if you are members, then only you will get the benefit of this Harvard Business School online courses. So we are going to have a orientation program on 9th of June, morning 9:30 at Tejulila Hall, Shishuan School. Don't miss out. The first 30 participants will get a benefit of a special prize. We will open up the enrollment from in a couple of days. Members will start getting the details of the programs which are opening in the coming 100 days. And if any of those topics interest you, you can enroll for those programs. Programs will be from 6 to 8 weeks program. And every week you will have to put in 5 to 6 hours, complete the weekly assignments, then only you will get a certificate. And at the end of successfully completing the course, you will be getting a hard copy of certificate, which you can frame and put it in your office. And you'll also get a digital certificate, which you can showcase it on your LinkedIn profile also. A big event for KCF for tying up with Harvard Business School. So don't miss out. And finally, now for the vote of thanks, a big round of applause for Rajesh. It's very difficult, doing it a monthly read, spending so many hours reading the book, again reading the book, revising, looking at some other data also regarding that author. Uh, I can't thank you enough, Rajesh. And taking that responsibility to doing it consistently. Thank you. You make us proud as a KCF
No, but
member.
I should add that it is thanks to you. You've been my mentor for so many years, 33 years down the line, and invited me to join the KCF. So,
And KCF member from Goa, and now a committee member also. So nothing is impossible. Rajesh, अगर मैं गोवा में हूँ, मैं क्या कर सकता हूँ? But see the contribution sitting in Goa, and I'm so happy now people across the globe are becoming members because of this book review. बोला ठीक है, physical programs we may not be able to attend, लेकिन book review तो हम करेंगे, join. And you might be putting on those other programs on the YouTube. We will see that, and whenever we are in India, we will love to join you physically. So we are now getting members who are not in India, outside India, and are still becoming members of KCF. Really a good moment for KCF. And thank you for all the attendees for taking out time and attending this program, encouraging us. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chirag, for being an MC for this program. And this program is brought to you by the knowledge team, which is headed by Mr. Karan Vora, who is our managing committee member for long. He's a director at Bank of America. Karan is there. But unfortunately, today he was out and now he has joined in. So we have a program committee, we have a knowledge committee also. And the next task on the knowledge committee is now to bring out a quarterly newsletter which would be coming out on 30th June. That is our target. So every quarterly end, you would be getting a newsletter from KCF. Topics and all we would be of the Harvard course, we would be sending by email to our members. So just give us a couple of days, maybe on Monday only, Monday or Tuesday, you should be getting the mails. So there are right now about 24 courses. So I can tell you in general, there are courses available on strategies, on leadership, on digital, on AI, and every quarterly a new course is being added. So just wait for a couple of days, and would love everyone to enroll to start with the course and be those first 30 people to take the pricing benefit of enrolling. Don't wait for the 9th of June. That much I can tell you. So thank you, everybody. Have a good day. And let's hope and wait for the 4th of June. And let's hope we have a good government which takes India to the next elevated position. And every one of us job is to make India proud. And everybody is doing their bit. Thank you very much. Karan, you would like to add something? This is your knowledge team program and you are calm. Would love to hear few words from you.
No, Mughal, I think you and Rajesh have covered the topic. Obviously, we're looking for more participation. I mean, that encourages us. So I think, if members can also get other non-members to come and join and experience it for the first time, I think it will be very, very useful for us.
Yeah, so what good thing that we have done is the last program was only for members, but we felt that KCF being a knowledge platform, let's open this program at least for all the non-members also. So anybody and everybody, all the members would be getting the links of the book review regularly, and you are free to send it to your friends and relatives whom you feel could be interested in book reviews. Please use it, please send it, and let us all gain from this book reviews. That's all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Everyone. Have a good day. Bye.
Bye.